Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss a lesson from your book Snapshot. The second chapter from your book, The Address. It is a very interesting story written by Marga Menko. There are three main characters in this lesson. They are 1. Mrs. S, her daughter, and another lady who is the friend of Mrs. S. The story, The Address, is a moving short story of Marga Minko. During World War II, Germany invades Holland. A woman with a daughter has to flee from home. The mother dies. Long after the war, the daughter comes back to her town. She meets the woman with whom her mother had left all her belongings. The woman even refuses to recognize her, nor does she show any intention of returning the things she had in her possession. The narrator gives up the idea of getting them back again. She decides to leave all of them behind with her. She resolves to forget the address where those belongings lie unceremoniously in unpleasant surroundings. So, this was the introduction where the daughter of Mrs. S, after the World War ended, she went to the friend of her mother and she wanted to get back all those things her mother had left behind with her friend. But the friend was quite selfish and she did not want to give back the belongings to the daughter of her friend. So now let us read the story. Do you still know me? I asked. The woman looked at me searchingly. She had opened the door a chink. I came closer and stood on the step. No, I don't know you. I'm Mrs. S's daughter. So, here the daughter is the narrator of the story, and after the war ended, and it was quite a few long years, the daughter wanted to get back the things her mother had left. So she came to the house of a woman. The house number was 46 Marconi Street. Here. So she asked the woman that did she recognize her, and the woman was not quite interested in recognizing her. She held her hand on the door as though she wanted to prevent it opening any further. Her face gave absolutely no sign of recognition. Perhaps I was mistaken. I thought, perhaps it isn't her. I had seen her only once, fleeting, and that was years ago. It was most probable that I had rung the wrong bell. The woman let go to the door and stepped to the side. She was wearing my mother's green knitted cardigan. Cardigan here means a sweater knitted by hand. The wooden buttons were rather pale from washing. She saw that I was looking at the cardigan and half hid herself again behind the door. But I knew now that I was right. So the narrator, she said that she had come to the right house where her mother had left her belongings. Well, you know my mother? I asked. Have you come back? Said the woman. I thought that no one had come back, only me. The door opened and closed in the passage behind her. A musty smell emerged. Musty smell means somewhat bad smell. I regret. I cannot do anything for you. So the lady said that I cannot help you anymore. I have come here specially on the train. I wanted to talk to you for a moment. It is not convenient for me now, said the woman. I can't see you another time. So the woman was not interested to talk to this narrator because she knew that she had come to take back the things that belonged to her mother. So she did not open the door even. She nodded and cautiously closed the door as though no one inside the house should be disturbed. I stood where I was on the step. The curtain in front of the bay window moved. Someone started at me, Someone stared at me and would then have asked what I wanted. Oh, nothing, the woman would have said. It was nothing. I looked at the nameplate again. Darling, it said in the black letters on white enamel. So, the friend of her mother's name was Darling, and on the jam, a bit higher, the number 46. So, as I told you earlier, she had come to the house number 46, which stands on Macaroni Street, and the friend's name was Darling. As I walked slowly back to the station, I thought about my mother, who had given me the address years ago. It had been in the first half of the war. I was home for a few days, and it struck me immediately that something or other about the room had changed. I missed various things. So, this daughter, she was away somewhere and she had come to her mother's house, and here she found that many of the things are missing from the room. So she wondered where could these things go. My mother was surprised. I should have noticed so quickly. So her mother was surprised that her daughter noticed those missing things so quickly. Then she told me about Mrs. Darling. I had never heard of her, but apparently she was an old acquaintance of my mother. So, after inquiring about those missing things from her mother, the mother started telling her about her friend Mrs. Darling, and now she suddenly turned up and renewed their contacts. Since then, she had come regularly. So, this Mrs. Darling, she used to come to her friend's house regularly, and after talking sometimes, waiting sometimes, she used to always leave the room with taking something away from the room. Every time she leaves here, she takes something home with her, said my mother. She took all the table silver in one go. So, this lady used to carry away all the silver articles, all the precious articles from the house, and she used to keep it with her. And then the antique plates that hung there, she had trouble lugging those large vases, and I am worried she got a creak in her back from the crockery. My mother shook her head pityingly. I would never have dared ask her. She suggested it to me herself. She even insisted. She wanted to save all my nice things. If we have to leave here, we shall lose everything, she says. So, this lady used to tell her that if the war continues and you have to leave the house, you will lose all your precious articles. So, it is better you keep it with me and I will keep them safe. And thus, she used to pick up something or the other every time she visited her friend's house. Have you agreed with that? She should keep everything? As if that's necessary, my mother cried. I would simply be an insult to talk like that and think about the risk she's running each time she goes out of the room with a full suitcase or bag. My mother seemed to notice that I was not entirely convinced. She looked at me reprovingly, and after that, we spoke no more about it. So the daughter was very much worried that why her mother's friend was picking up the things, but the mother was quite sure that she will get back the things, so she is giving it to her friend. Meanwhile, I had arrived at the station without having paid much attention to things on the way. So the narrator was thinking about these things while she was going back to the station. I was walking in familiar places again for the first time since the war, but I did not want to go further than was necessary. I didn't want to upset myself with the sight of streets and houses full of memories from the precious time. In the train back, I saw Mrs. Dorling in front of me again as I had the first time I met her. It was the morning after the day my mother had told me about her. So, this Miss Dorling used to visit her mother every now and then because she wanted to pick up all the articles from her mother's house. It was the morning after the day my mother had told me about her. I had got up late and coming downstairs, I saw my mother about to see someone out, a woman with a broad back. There is my daughter, said my mother. So the mother introduced her daughter to that woman, Mrs. Dorling. She beckoned to me. Here, beckon means calling. She beckoned to me. The woman nodded and picked up the suitcase under the coat rack. She wore a brown coat and a shapeless hat. Does she live far away? I asked, seeing the difficulty she had going out of the house with a heavy suitcase. In Marconi Street, said my mother. Number 46, remember that. So the narrator's mother told her daughter that she lives quite near the house. Number is 46 and the street is Marconi Street. So she told her daughter to remember the address of this woman. I had remembered it, but I had waited a long time to go there. Initially, after the liberation, I was absolutely not interested in all that stored stuff, and naturally I was also rather afraid of it. After be afraid of being confronted with things that had belonged to a connection that no longer existed, which were hidden away in the cupboard and boxes and waited in vain until they were put back in their place again, which had endured all those years because they were things. So, when this narrator went to the lady's house, she saw all the things were placed in a haphazard manner in the box and in the cupboard. They were never touched, and they were not also shining like her mother used to keep them clean and shining. But gradually, everything became more normal again. Bread was getting to be lighter in color. There was a bed you could sleep in unthreatened, a room with a view you were more used to glancing at each day. And one day I noticed I was curious about all the possessions that must still be at that address. I wanted to see them, touch them. So the narrator was quite interested in getting back those things that her mother had given to Mrs. Dorling. After my first visit in vain to Mrs. Dorling's house, I decided to try a second time. Now a girl of about 15 opened the door to me. I asked her if her mother was at home. No, she said, my mother's gone doing an errand. So, for the second time, when the narrator had visited Mrs. Dorling's home, Mrs. Dorling was not there in the house. A little girl aged 15 opened the door and she inquired about Mrs. Dorling. No matter, I said, I'll wait for her. So the narrator thought that it is better to wait for her mother because she wanted to get back the things. I followed the girl along the passage. An old fashioned iron Hanukkah candle holder hung next to a mirror. We never used it because it was much more cumbersome than a single candlestick. So the little girl said that we don't use these candlesticks because they burn very fast, and the candlesticks also burn very fast, so we don't use them. Won't you sit down? Asked the girl. She held open the door of the living room and I went inside past her. I stopped horrified. I was in a room I knew and did not know. I found myself in the midst of things I did want to see again. So, when the little girl opened the door and she was called in, she went to a room where she found so many things which were taken away from her house and kept in this room. So she did not know about the room, but she knew about the things that were kept in the room because those things belonged to her mother. I wanted to see again, but which oppressed me in the strange atmosphere, or because of the tasteless way everything was arranged. So, those things which were taken away from her house were not kept in a very good condition, they were not decorated or kept in place, they were just haphazardly kept anywhere. Tastelessly means anywhere. Those things were put in a very tasteless manner because of the ugly furniture or the muggy smell that hung there. I don't know, but I scarcely dared to look around. The girl moved a chair. I sat down and stared at the woolen tablecloth. I rubbed it. My fingers grew warm from rubbing. I followed the lines of the pattern. Somewhere on the edge there should be a burn mark that had never been repaired. So the narrator knew that the woolen tablecloth that was placed on the table was her mother's, and she knew that it had once burned. So she saw that the burn marks were still there, which was not repaired by her mother. My mother'll be back soon, said the girl. I have already made tea for you. Will you have a cup? Thank you. I looked up. The girl put cups already on the tea table. She had a broad back, just like her mother. She poured tea from a white pot. All it had was a gold border on the lid. I remembered she opened a box and took some spoons out. So, whatever things Mrs. Darling was having in her house was all of her mother, and so she was not quite surprised because these all things belonged to her: the teapot, the tablecloth, and also the cutleries, the spoons. That's a nice box. I heard my own voice. It was a strange voice, as though each sound was different in this room. Oh, you know about them? She had turned around and brought me my tea. She laughed. My mother says, it is antique. We have got lots more. She pointed round the room. See for yourself. I had no need to follow her hand. I knew which things she meant. The narrator knew that all these things belonged to her mother, so she was looking for those things. I just looked at the still life over the tea table. As a child, I had always fancied the apple on the pure plate. We used it everything. We use it for everything, she said. Once we even ate off the plates hanging there on the wall. I wanted to so much, but it wasn't anything special. I had found the burn marks on the tablecloth. So by the time the narrator had already found the burn marks on the tablecloth, which she knew, and then she came to know that this tablecloth also belonged to her mother. The girl looked questioningly at me. Yes, I said, you get so used to touching all these lovely things in the house. You hardly look at them anymore. You only notice when something is missing because it has to be repaired or because you have lent it. For example, again I heard the unnatural sound of my voice. So this narrator was seeing all those things present in the house, and she was talking to herself that, oh, these things belong to my mother, and how they have taken away everything from my mother. So her inner voice was talking to her, and that sound she could listen. I went on. I remember my mother once asked me if I would help her polish the silver. It was a very long time ago, and I was probably bored that day, or perhaps I had to stay at home because I was ill. As she had never asked me before, I asked her which silver she meant, and she replied, surprised, that it was the spoon, fork, and knife, of course. So, all their cutleries, that is the spoon, knife, fork, everything was made out of silver, And she remembered that once her mother had asked her to polish all those silver articles. And these things she remembered when she came back to Mrs. Dorling's house. And that was the strange thing. I didn't know the cutlery we ate of every day was silver. And only that day she came to know that those cutlery she was using every day for their lunch and dinner was made out of silver. The girl laughed again. I bet you don't know it is either. I looked intently at her. What we ate with, she asked. Well, do you know? She hesitated. She walked to the sideboard and wanted to open a drawer. I looked. It's in here. I jumped up. I was forgetting the time. I must catch my train. So she was engrossed in thinking about the things and about the incidents of her childhood, what her mother had told one day, and how these things belonged to her. And suddenly she jumped off from the chair because she had to leave, and the timings of her train was about to reach. So she had her hand on the drawer. Don't you want to wait for my mother? So this girl, she asked the narrator that, will you not wait for my mother to come? No, I must go. I walked to the door. The girl pulled the drawer open. I can find my own way. As I walked down the passage, I heard the jingling of spoons and forks. Jingling of spoons and forks means the noise of the spoon and fork, because they were all placed in the drawer, and because they were made of silver, they had certain sweet noise. As the corner of the room, I looked up at the nameplate, Marconi Street. It said I had seen at number 46. The address was correct. But now I didn't want to remember it anymore. So this narrator was quite sad, because all those things they had in their house belonged to her and her mother. So she was quite sad, and she never wanted to remember the house number 46 and the Marconi Street, because it made her sad, because the lady did not give away all her things. So I wanted to go back there, because the objects that are linked in your memory with the familiar life of former times instantly lose their value when served from them. You see them again in strange surroundings. So the narrator was quite sad to see that those things which were hers now are kept in somebody else's house, and she had no right to take away those things. And what should I have done with them in a small rented room where the shades of black out paper still hang along the window, and no more than a handful of cutlery fitted in the narrow table drawer? So again, she was thinking that what will I do with so many cutleries, because I live in a small rented room where I don't have enough space to keep my things. How can I take away these beautiful things and keep in those small drawers that I have in my room? I resolved to forget the address of all the things I had to forget. That would be the easiest. So, have you followed this lesson? I think you have followed it, because this lesson is a memory of the writer, and she narrated the story what had happened after the World War ended. She went to her mother's friend's house. The mother had given her the address and had told her that all those things belong to us, and when the war ends, you can go and take away those things. While the war was going on, her mother also died, and so this girl was left alone. After she became quite elderly, she remembered that her mother had told her to get those things. But when she reached her mother's friend's house, the lady would not part away with those beautiful things which actually belonged to the narrator. So I hope you have followed the lesson. Thank you.